In the last section of the book, you learned about the three domains. We have the bacteria, the archaea, and the eukarya. You learned new vocabulary words like prokaryote, meaning organisms without a nucleus, and eukaryote, organisms with a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So this section of the book is called, My Kingdom for Eukaryote. And we are going to look at what are the four kingdoms in the eukarya domain. The first one of these is the kingdom Protista. All protists are eukaryotic, meaning that they have a distinct nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. They can be multicellular, but most are unicellular. Some are predators. They can resemble little plants or little animals. They can be autotrophic, meaning they can make their own food by photosynthesizing or being a chemoautotroph, or heterotrophic, meaning they have to ingest another organism to gain their energy. Or they can have both, meaning that they both photosynthesize or chemotrophs, and they also have to ingest other organisms. They're classified by the way they move and how they obtain energy. There's over 65,000 different types of protozoa. You would need a microscope to see a protozoa. You can probably have a pretty low-powered dissection scope or a really high-powered magnifying lens to see some of the larger macro protista. There's three main branches of the kingdom Protista. You have the fungi-like Protista, the animal-like Protista, and the plant-like Protista. I'm sorry, I'm yawning a lot. So the first one are the fungi-like Protista, and they include slime molds. And so you can see a time-lapse photograph on the top of a slime mold embarking across the surface of leaves and bark. The bottom picture is a scanning electron microscope picture of fruiting bodies of a slime mold. The next are the animal-like Protista. And so you have the amoeba on the top, which is moving by what are called pseudopods, or false feet. Pseudo means false or fake, and pod means foot. So amoeba moves by pushing out pseudopods, and then you see the paramecium. And the paramecium is a unicellular organism, and you see on its side those wave-like little hair-like projections. Those are called cilia. So over the whole body of the paramecium is covered with hair-like projections that help it move. Next, you have the plant-like Protista. And so Euglena is probably one that you're going to hear most throughout your academic career. Oh my goodness. I think it's sitting here on the couch doing these videos that make me yawn. So you can see that they're green, they photosynthesize, and then you can see the little flagellate, the little orange one that cruises through the top left one. And that leads us to our next kingdom, which is the kingdom Plantae. Plants are eukaryotic. They undergo a process called photosynthesis using pigments like chlorophyll. They can trap the sun's energy and make chemical energy. We, as animals, cannot do that. We do not have chloroplast and chlorophyll in our skin. We have to ingest other organisms to gain the energy for life. Plants make food, being an autotroph, but they also undergo cellular respiration, meaning that they also break down glucose for doing processes within their plant cells. A plant cell usually has a very large central vacuole that'll be very different from the animal cell. When we start talking about cells and mitosis and meiosis, we will be looking at organelles and plant and animal cells, comparing them in more detail. Plants have cellulose in their cell walls, which helps hold them in place, helps give them rigor or rigidity. We don't have cellulose in our animal cell walls. Our digestive system also cannot break down cellulose. Most plants are multicellular, and plants can reproduce either sexually or asexually. Sexually, the process is called pollination, where you have one plant that is a female plant and one plant that is a male plant. The male plant produces pollen, and that pollen is delivered to the female plant to the stigma. The plant kingdom is very vast and very differentiated. We go from plants that have no seeds and plants that do have seeds. We have plants that have flowers and plants that don't have flowers. So you can see all the different plants. You can see a ginkgo tree down by the World of Coke in downtown Atlanta. And we are very prevalent in seeing evergreens or the conifers here in Georgia. And so your book asks you to take a moment and reflect and compare how protists are different from plants. A good way to answer this question is to divide the space you have available to answer the question in half. Put protists on one side and plants on the other. And that leads us to our kingdom. We are in the kingdom Animalia. All organisms in Animalia are eukaryotic, meaning that their cells have nucleuses and membrane-bound organelles. Most are heterotrophic, meaning animals have to ingest other organisms to obtain their energy for life. We cannot capture the sun's light directly. Neither can a squirrel. Neither can an ant. Most animals reproduce sexually, meaning that there's a male counterpart and a female counterpart. And for most of their lifespan, animals are mobile. Your active reading question here asks you to underline the characteristics of the kingdom Animalia, which should be easy for you since you are in that kingdom. The last question of this section asks you to place a check mark in the box for the characteristic that each kingdom in Eukaryote displays. So anytime you see a test question and it says Eukaryote, if it says lacks a nucleus, it's going to be false, untrue.